I'm back. Well, what do we got today? Oh my God. It's a Marshall amp. But it's a Marshall amp, not as we know it. It's one of those Marshall core things. But hey, let's not prejudge this. It's a Marshall, right? Yeah. Comes across to me. I mean, it's a tiny little 25 watt. You can see it there. There's the amp, as it were. Sit it down. The knobs look familiar. And it's got an input, but it's got a USB. It's got a little connector at the back for the mains. And it's all good, on and off. Then you've got these control knobs with all sorts of things on them. So what we're going to do with this one, I think we need to, is to whip this back off and have a look at the guts. I mean, what do you really get for your money? Let's face it, they're not that expensive. I think they're 200 and something odd pounds this thing was. It's not that cheap either, really, is it? Because there's no tubes in there. Or is it? I'm going to whip this back off firstly and take a look, and then we can get down to the nitty gritty of what this amp's about. Yeah, I'm really not looking forward to it. Hold on, let me whip the lid off. We've got a loose lid. So what I'm going to do is zoom in close. My God, there's a speaker in there. Oh, what's that stuff? You're going to zoom in close and we're going to have a close look at this and yeah, see what we really get with a Marshall Code amp. Yeah. I don't know anybody who's done this, do you? Yeah, it should be exciting. I guess you'll never see it anywhere else, except here on this channel. This channel. Johnny Mckenzie com. Yeah. Hold on. Well, here we are. Well, I took the mains off this here. As you can see, it comes in here. It goes through, actually, let me move that up a bit. It goes through a bit of a toroidal thingy here, off the mains, and then into this power supply. Well, let's go a bit closer. Now, unless I'm drastically mistaken, that's a nice, cheap Chinese power supply. Looks Chinese to me. Yeah, not much you can say about it, really. You see them everywhere, don't you? Yeah. It's got to be worth about $10, maybe a bit more. Let's be generous and say $15. Yeah, scary. Well, you've got the speaker in the bottom as well. Let's take a look at that. And as you can see with that, it's a total, complete, nondescript. No names, no brands, no pack drill. I mean, is it even Marshall? Well, it says it on the tin. It says OXO on buses though, doesn't it? Now then, what have we got here? Well, there's a few bits on there that matter, I guess. Looks to me that does. Let's have another one. That looks to me like the, yeah, that's the amp. Oh my God, the input comes in at the top up here, somewhere. Yeah, up here, and it goes through into this thing, but it is routed across to another board which is that away. This thing across the top here is the top panel, and we're going to take a look at that in a minute. There's nothing to see on the back of it, but as you can see, the power amp, we'll call it that, it's never seen a tube. And they've compensated for that, or they think they have, with a little board, which is, as I said, further across. Let's go and have a look at the board because, well, you want to see you get something for your money, don't you? I don't know what that's worth, but I'd hazard less than, I don't know, $20. It's got 20, 15, and 20. $20, $40, $55, if that. Let's go a bit further. Now I reckon this board here, this is the last board in the amp, there's nothing else. That's that top panel. You can see where we are. We've moved across to this thing. I mean, there's two things about this. We've got some kind of processor down here, and then we've got this little board sticking out at the bottom. You can see that one. Look a bit closer at that in a moment. But that board, yeah, that's responsible for all the effects and all the rest of it, and you know, the simulations and the this and the that, and oh my God, what's Marshall doing? Let's go a bit closer. Well, what's really funny is inside here you've got one of those analog devices, a Shark processor that everybody, well, Practical Audio, rave about. Well, they can carry on raving, they've got 4 of them now. Lunatics, but there you go. And what else you got? Well, you've got a bit of memory up there. Then you've got, I don't even know what the other one is, can't read it. Let's have a look. Oh, an ARM chip, fancy that. Maybe that's the processor. Yeah. By the way, ARM chips come from the UK, were invented in the UK. Originally came from a company that was responsible for making the BBC computer, if anybody knows about that one. Well, that's where ARM came from. There was a guy named Hauser, I think, that yeah, used to run that company. Yeah, scary. So you could almost say this this stuff was inside computers, but not quite the same. So that's that section of the board. We then got that other thing down here. You see it just down there at the bottom. Let's go take a look at that. Well, there it is. I can hardly read that chip, no matter how hard I try and focus. You can see it's very difficult to get near that one. It's a very small board down in the bottom. But I notice it does say Marshall across it. Up here, you see that? Let's see if I can get that out of the way. Yeah, up there. That's about as near to Marshall, I think, as it gets, the name. Because I think what you've got here, and I can't be sure because I've got no information on this, we'll call it an amp. I think this is where they put all the firmware and the rest of it for the simulation type of thing. When they partnered with another company that was well down the road of that sort of development. So how I see it is Marshall amps have, they've got an I/O board, they've partnered with somebody for the sounds, and this is the net result, this amp. And as I said, when you zoom out, you don't really get that much for your money, do you? In fact, it's pretty scary. Let's go back and put the lid back on. Then we'll have a look at the back of the amp and see what it tells us. By the way, the back's just held in place with these, you know, these type of things. These star screws. They're wood screws. So they just go straight into the wooden chassis. Let me screw them back. Okay, well, here's the back of the amp, and yeah, all very interesting. Remember, this is called a Marshall Code 25, which would suggest that the amp is 25 watts. But lo and behold, on the back here, excluding the Japanese or Chinese or whatever it is, Code 25 says it's 35 watts. Well, fancy that. It's 100 to 240 volts, 50 to 60 hertz. You'd expect all this. Don't know what that is. Don't know what that is. Don't care. That's foreign. Warning, shock hazard. Oh my God. You've got all the approvals all the way along here. Okay. CE up the corner. FCC here. Designed and engineered and quality controlled by Marshall Amplification PLC, Bletchley in England. It's made in Vietnam, and Marshall have had a bit of a drive with some amps being made, some dirt on it there, being made in Vietnam. In fact, the DSL at one stage I think was made in Vietnam. I don't know if it still is, but it used to be made in England, and that was a pretty cool amp. It still is, I guess, for the money, but moving it to Vietnam I don't think is always the best answer, especially in a quality brand like Marshall. You'll notice it's got a Bluetooth logo. Well, we all know the problems with Bluetooth, don't we? At least the Bluetooth that you know about, not the one I know about. But the one you know about will only do about sort of 20 feet and then it'll die off. Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems with Bluetooth as it stands. But I can tell you, there is a new Bluetooth coming along. And when that does come along, there are claims that it'll do 90 meters. Unfortunately for you and me, here we are on this one. This one's got the old Bluetooth. Yeah, so it's going to be a bit of a problem. Got a serial number, V02. Well, Vietnam will be Vietnam. And there's the rest of the number, I don't care. 0716. July 16. It probably sat in the shop a while. I don't think they sell many of these. Or do they? Well, you guys ought to be telling me, so we all get up to speed on how many get bought and how many don't and what you think about them. Put it down there in the video at the bottom, you know, where you can write your little bits of text. I'd love to know how many of these get actually bought. I don't know. And remember, they got that Marshall 100 watt these days. The Marshall Code 100. I wonder if that's 100 watt or 130. I don't know. You get the idea. Let's have a look at the top. Wow. Here we are on the top. Well, sort of on the side at the minute, if you follow me here. Well, let's turn it on and see what it does. Oh my God, it's even got a display. What about that? Yeah, it says American Clean there. That must be the one I've chosen. Yeah, and we got a load of presets we can whip around here. At least I think we have. Yeah. You can see them there. JVM Clean. What have we got here? Clean Flange. Let's go on to the good stuff. What is it? Plexi. Well, we're going to hear what it sounds like a bit later. I'm not going to go out in the studio with it. I'm just going to bring a guitar and put it in this. Because that's where most guys will have one of these, sitting in the house or in the bedroom. And they'll be doing the thing, you know. It sounds like a plan. There's no real point in taking something like this out there. Honestly, there isn't. But as you can see, let's come back to it. As you can see, as I flip these around, you can see these effects along here go on and off, because each one of these has got a different sort of setup, you know, sort of preset setup. You've got a tuner. If you press the 2, there's the tuner. No, not the tuna fish, just the tuner. And we can exit that way. Looks pretty standard to me. We got a thing where we can put the iPod in so we can play along. That sounds like a plan. You got headphones so you can not wake the kids and things like that. Master volume preset. It pushes, by the way, if you want to go off and start messing around. I'm going to get to that later. We've got a volume, a treble, mid, bass, and again, it all looks pretty standard. We've got a foot switch there. We've got an input here. USB there, interestingly. And yeah, we're going to come back to all this stuff across the front because there's something else we have to look at. But looking at it overall, I mean, on the face of it, I'll say that, it looks like a Marshall with a little bit of a screen and extra buttons and, yeah, you know what I mean. But the truth is, well, it's got a Marshall badge on it and I'm not so sure. I don't know. Like I said, even the valve states had a tube in. This has got no tube anywhere, and you know, because it's a low-cost product, is it really going to be like the Campers of this world or the Helixes with the tone? I suspect not. But we'll get to it, won't we? Okay, let's flip this back up top for now and move along a little bit. We've got a fair bit to cover, actually, little different bits and pieces, you know. Yeah, that's what you'd expect in my reviews. Well, I guess you get what you get, don't you? Especially for the money that this thing is. It's not a hyper expensive product, it's not even real. No. I could go on with it and pick fault, if you will. But I don't really want to pick fault. Although somehow I think I'm going to end up picking fault by the time we get to the end. What's the score going to be? Question is, what score would you give it? You know, get to the end of the video, watch it all, and put a score in, and you know, let everybody know what you think of this amp. I mean, it has its place, don't get me wrong, but which place and whose place is another story. Yeah, you're just starting out, I guess. It's good for that. The price, there are cheaper amps. Got a little orange thing for £99, or I guess $130 or something, I don't know. Well, is that it? Do we just plug it in and play with the presets and things like that? Well, of course we don't. This amp, because it's a sort of digital, sort of bass type of mentality, we'll call it that. It's certainly not a tube amp mentality. It's got an app, you know, them things that go on your phone or go on your iPad, or, you know. So let me go and find one of them, something to put it on, and we'll take a look at the app. An app. Good for some. Is it good for Marshall? I don't really like Marshall to any of that stuff. I don't want to either. Hold on. Well, here we are. I'm using this Samsung device because I particularly don't get on well with Apple. Ever since I got ripped off from sending an Apple phone back that they said I'd dropped and their repairers had done it. Yeah, another story. As if they haven't got enough money to start off with. Anyway, here we are on a Samsung, and it supports, I believe, this amp supports Apple as well, but I'm not going to go and test it because I hate them. So let's go and have a look at the Play Store on this one. And if you search for, you'll see it there, I've been here before, Marshall Gateway. It'll pop up right there. See? And we grab that one and install it. This is what it should look like. You can have a look at some of the screens. Yeah, all very nice. Yeah, have a look through them. A lot of things you can do with it without even getting near the amp. So it's got its place. All I've got to be able to do is get out of this now. There we are. So let's install it. You've got to accept all this junk. Open. Oh, I can't wait. The amp's turned on, by the way, I think. Let's have a look. Yeah, I turned it on earlier. And sure enough, there it is. We've got, this is a EL34 Heaven, it says here. OD Silver Jubilee Classic Marshall 100 watt 1960 cab. So we've got a cab this side, we've got the Marshall this side, the description there, and EL34 Heaven, and what more could you want? It doesn't go up and down, does it? No, but it does. You can whip out and have a look at all these presets. It says here, tap to sync. Well, let's do that. Now it's sunk. It's sunk. That's a good word. Yeah, so very simple to use. We can sort of look at all these. We can just go tap to sync and it pulls it from that. Yeah, how good's that? The preset's particularly easy, see. If you look at that, if you look at the ones I've touched, you can see that it pulls it in and then updates the record. Yeah, all very nice and simple. So you've got to go faffing around, tapping and syncing. I think. I'm not sure if we can touch that. Have a look in the library. Now you can flip between this and the amp just by doing that. I'm now on the amp and now I'm on this. So I guess if we look in there. Here they are, JCM 800 Heaven. That sounds good to me. Yeah. Well, good. Now we can move along and have a look at the amp. We've got the preamp. We can turn the preamp on and off, by the way, which is a bit weird. You can hear it. Listen. Hear that? Never mind the wind out the chimney. turn the power amp on or off. Oh, weird. And we can look at the cabinet. Now, it's on a 1960, but we can sort of hop between all these different cabinets as a 1960 hand-wired. Indeed, I've got one of them. Doesn't make much difference, but I've got one. And we can choose these and move around. Very, very easy. Whoops. Yeah, up and down like so. So we say there or there. If you get that, I'll try and do this so you can see the screen. I'll put it in the middle. Yeah. And the same on this one. What can I do with the power amp? He asks. Nothing else. Okay. So we whip back. We've still got this running. We can minimize all this crap and go from there. Slip it back. So you got this effect of, whoops, that's one of the problems with the Samsung, by the way. When you do that, you normally get this thing. Marshall didn't figure that one out too well, did they? You've got to sort of grab it over that area. Moving along a bit, we've got this other area now, which is like the effects of what's going on. Now, it depends if you're on this one or this one. I'm now back on the amp, so I'm just going to sit on. Look at that, that's awful. Yeah, sitting at the amp, we can say, well, we've got, and of course, if you've got your guitar plugged in, everything's easier. Oh look, valve mode, VLV. At least I think that's what it is. No, maybe not. Who knows? I'm not going to sit here reading the book all day, showing you all this, but I'm just giving you a quick run through on the JCM 800, like this one is. Playback, it says here. So we've got a track. We can load a track, right, into this, and we can play it back from here into that, all through the Bluetooth, right? Tap to load, it says. Well, oh look, I've got a few. Back in black. Yeah, that's more like it. Let's turn it up a bit. Yeah. I can hear you doing that, guys. I can hear you going at it. It's awesome. Yeah. So let's say okay. And it's in there now. AC/DC, back in black. And if I want to play it, I just hit it from here. It's all good. Yeah? No work to do. I could go louder, of course, but let me stop it because that's just the demo. And now we've got a menu at the bottom here. What's that do? Code, connected to the code. It's because I'd connected before, by the way. There is a way of connecting that to this unit, but it isn't really complex, so I'm going to waste your time. We've got a tuner ability. Obviously, I'm not plugged in. I'm going to be later. Well, there's your tuner. Tuna fish, indeed. My Marshall, what's that about? Oh, user profile, email address and password, sync your status. I'm not connected. I'm not going to either. So you can do all that stuff with the cloud. Yeah. I like the amp mode myself. Because you can go to all these different amps. Look at them. American Class A, B, Classic Marshall, Vintage Marshall, British Class A, American Class A, B, Classic Marshall 100, Vintage Marshall 30, British Class A, American Class A, B, Vintage, I think I've been around this. Classic Marshall, yeah, I've been around that. But there's a lot of them. And the same with the cabs. You know, we've got all these various cabs. Yeah, they look all like Marshall ones to me. Yeah, loads of them. And then I guess, I'll choose that one. And then I guess in the amps up here, yeah, Crunch American, Plexi, Blues Breaker, Acoustic, Clean JVM, Clean American, Clean DSL, JTM 45, Natural, Silver Jubilee, American DSL, 50s British, JCM 800 and so on. So I'm going to leave that where it is and flip this back. But I hope you get a good idea of how simple this is to use, and that's the main thing, because that doesn't have to be there. This can be, you can move this away from the amp and you can have it set up on a little stand with your guitar. Yeah, this amp can be down on the floor somewhere. Real great thing, really, because you're not faffing around, keep going back to the amp. You can change this and you can do that and so on and so forth. You've got that foot switch connector that allows you to do all this sort of stuff from a foot switch. A foot switch, that's hard to say sometimes. The only problem is that the thing I don't like about it is that pedal's about 45, 50 quid or 60 or $70 in real money. Yeah, you get the amp and you get this, but you don't get the pedal. Having said that, it's not the usual Marshall pedal. It's got a load of features on it, so well worth the time. Notice on this, when you've changed these things around, yeah, and you've done all this stuff, you've got a save button there where you can save it to the amp. So when you get everything as you want it, it's all pretty good. Okay, I'm going to come back out of this now. I can't take any more of it. Let's just put it away. Oops. Okay, I'm not going to put it away. And that's it. Let's go back up. Well, here I am, back on top, as they say in Staffordshire, where I come from. Back on top. Terrible phrases they got. They say a lot of things. So English, it doesn't come from Staffordshire. Well, it does, but not as you'd know it. There. What do you think so far? That's the real question. Is this thing revolutionary? Is it going to change the world as we know it? Is Marshall going to end up like this throughout its series or its whole ranges? I sincerely hope not. It's got its place, hasn't it? It's still turned on, I think. Look at that. Flashing lights. It's got its place. But what else can I say about this amp? Well, we've yet to play it. I'm just going to get a guitar and plug it in here so you can hear it, because that's what it is. It's nothing dynamic. Or is it? Depends who you are and what reason you want to buy one of these sort of amps for. You know, the little amps. You've seen loads of them, same as I have. I'm itching all over. I must be alive. Anyway, enough of me being alive. I feel half dead at the minute. Can you hear that? You can hear that, because that's sort of growling in the background. Well, that's not the wife. It's the snow outside and the chimney and the wind and the... Oh my God, it's terrible. Let's start. So where are we with this Marshall? Well, you know, Marshall's got a bit of a conjuring act to carry out, to stay in business indeed. Now don't get me wrong, don't think that for a second Marshall's going anywhere tomorrow, because he isn't. It's a very well run organisation by professionals. People like Phil Wells is involved and he's a great guy. But the thing is, they got this conjuring act because you can't have a JCM 800 for the price of a chocolate bar. And that's always the case. It doesn't matter what equipment you want to talk about. If you want to buy a cheap pedal, you'll end up with a cheap pedal. And if you want to buy a cheap amp, guess what? You'll end up with a cheap amp. There's nothing wrong in that. Some people, this could be a lot of money to maybe a schoolboy or somebody who doesn't have a lot of money. It's still a pretty cool amp. You can hear it, or you're going to hear it. And it's got all them extra effects, so you haven't got to buy anything. And if you, as I said, if you're 15 or 16, that's good. You don't have to buy anything. You just plug in and play. And you can be like your rock gods. Well, not quite. The amp could, but you couldn't. If you know what. Actually, I saw this girl the other day named Tina. Somebody put it up on one of the previews. Oh my God. From when she was 8 to when she was 18, or give or take. Over those 10 years, well, oh, you think you can play a guitar? Trust me, Tina will eat you for breakfast. And I mean it. Oh my God, she's awesome. She's somewhere, go and search for her. Oh. Back to the amp anyway. This is the important bit, right? So in that conjuring act that Marshall are going down, they need to be able to target, for want of a better word, Everybody. The people that can only afford this stuff, the high-end guys, the pros, the this, the that, the other. So there's always going to be a variation in their products to meet the requirements of as many people as they can actually sell to. And these guys that buy this are never going to buy, most likely, unless you get it cheaper in 30 years, never going to buy a JVM 410 Satriani head, for example. Firstly, can't afford it, don't want it in the living room, don't want it in the bedroom. The wife will, oh, trust me. So it's got its place, and that's how I see this amp. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to lean this amp forward and shore it up with something so we can get the audio coming out. But so that you can see what's going on at the top, I'll just press a few buttons and things. It'll give you an idea of the presets and that sort. I'm not going to sit here all day. I really don't want to do that. You'll get the idea. You'll be able to hear it. It's got some good tones, to be fair to it. So let me go and get the guitar. Let me get it set up and I'll be back. Hold on. Okay, well, what have we got here? I'm up here, so you'll have to put up with that. You don't need to see me. Okay, well, what we got here? I've got the tuner set up just by pressing these couple of buttons up here. And you can see there's a representation on this. There's one on this, so if you haven't got one of them, you can still use the thing. But the representation on this is a bit better, so if I hit a bottom E and detune it a bit, you can see right away as I bring it back up, it'll come back in. Tune. Well, that's a theory. There you go. There you go. You just have to let it relax a bit and then it's all good. Sounds about right. Let's hop out of the tuner. We're back to the amp. I'm not going to have it too loud on here because there's no point really. You see, to me, far too much of the effects, you know, the effects are just barreling over the thing. So when we look at the reverb, it looks just way out to me. That's just, look at this. What have we got? Idea. Fact is, we can change things around very easily. The decay a bit less as well. We can hop off to different amps. I want to choose a different amp. This is classic Marshall 100, so we can move across here to a vintage Marshall 30. Why not? Sounds just the same to me, doesn't it? I mean, all them effects don't help, do they? So let's take another look at the effects. I'm sure we can turn them off. Let's get rid of the modulation. It's a bit nicer. Let's get rid of all of it. Get rid of the reverb. Get rid of all of it. Pedal distortion. What's it like without that? Fancy that. Still got a bit of distortion because those old 30 watts are like that. And we can bring the trebles up and the middles down and the bass back a bit more cane. presets are not always so great. Plexi Classic, it says there. And what'd you get? That's nicer. Nice. So we can bring a bit of effect up, gain and things like that. We can do it all in here, of course. We just take it from 3.3 to about 7.4, which might get louder. Okay. Let's take the volume back a little. Take it to 100. That should be a plexi, they say. It's got that sort of plexi tone to it, you know. I don't know. I don't know. Not convinced. But that's another story. Find another one. Ambience. Well, why not? Yeah, for ambience. Harmonic bliss, it says here. You get them sort of it's not bad. What I don't like is there's so much effects on every thing. It's almost like they're trying to hide everything with effects. Let's get rid of some of that reverb. It must be, yeah, pretty high. This might be nicer. Yeah, get some nice tones out of this thing. And don't forget, although we're running through these things pretty quickly, really, these sort of fade out, don't they, them notes? I don't know. Let's choose a few more and then we'll go on. DSL, clean chorus. Let's try that one. Maybe it can simulate a DSL, okay. That doesn't sound bad, actually. Not bad. back. Well, oh my God, it has got a use. Let me turn it off. It's enough driving mad, this stuff. Device will power off. Get out of here. Let's got rid of that. Okay, well, what do I think of it? Well, to be honest, a lot of the presets are very overly done. And I think that's partly to hide some of the tones, you know. You tend to find, I don't know if you've ever used any of these emulator type of amps, but they tend to overdo the effects to sort of mask the actual tone. And so do I really think that this is a tube amp tone? No, it isn't. It's definitely not. If you turn all the effects off, it'll become glaringly clear to you that it's not quite the same, no matter what anybody says. So what's this darn thing worth in, you know, a score out of 10? That's a very difficult question because, well, actually, it's not a tube amp for starters. Is it an amp at all? Well, it's got an amplifier in it. That's a transistor amplifier. So it's an emulator. And as an emulator, well, there are some good ones, but they tend to be in the thousands, which is a bit of a problem. It's not geared for them sort of people. But for the job it's designed to do, I think I'd give it about a 7, which I think is a reasonable score, bearing in mind the actual cost, all them effects, good or bad, all the facts that you can take your tablet, and no, not that tablet. You can take your pill. You can take your tablet and you know, tweak around with it, as I showed in real time. You know, I was making adjustments as we went. So 7 out of 10 is a fair old score for something like this. Till next time. Now get out of here. Till next time. Now get out of here.